There is a water purification method that costs exactly $2, works in 60 seconds flat, and has been systematically removed from every survival manual published by major outdoor brands in the last 40 years. Not because it ever harmed a single person, not because science ever disproved it, not because it stopped working. It was erased because a method this simple cannot support a $4 billion water filtration industry built entirely on selling you complicated solutions to a problem your great-grandfather solved with pocket change. This is the story of the $2 water hack that an entire industry spent decades making sure you would forget completely. Welcome to Forbidden Camping. If you are not subscribed, hit that button now and turn on notifications, because what you are about to learn has been buried on purpose, and every single share preserves what they tried to erase forever. Right now, over 2 billion people across the planet lack access to safely managed drinking water. That number comes directly from the World Health Organization in their 2023 Global Report on Water Sanitation and Hygiene. 2 billion human beings. The same report confirms that contaminated water kills more people every year than all forms of violence combined, including war. We are not talking about distant problems in faraway places. The CDC documented over 7,000 Americans hospitalized annually from waterborne illness contracted inside the United States: Giardia, Cryptosporidium, E. coli, norovirus. These parasites and bacteria live in streams, lakes, rivers, and sometimes even municipal water systems that people assume are completely safe. One sip from the wrong source, and you are looking at severe dehydration, intestinal damage, and in vulnerable populations, death. The outdoor industry will sell you a $150 filtration system and tell you it is the only way to protect yourself. They will hand you a $70 UV purifier and call it essential gear. But they will never tell you about the method that costs $2, fits in your pocket, and has worked flawlessly for over a century in the field. If you have made it this far, you are already ahead of 99% of people buying overpriced gear at a big box store. Subscribe right now. Share this with someone who spends their money on equipment that does what a $2 solution handles better. Everything the outdoor and water industry buried is inside the complete Forbidden Camping outdoor vault. Water hacks they will not print on any label. Fire methods that military units used before manufacturers called them dangerous. Shelter strategies that outperform $200 tents using materials you find for free. Natural protocols that corporations spent billions keeping off every store shelf. The link is in the description, or scan the code on your screen right now. But stay here. This is only the beginning, and the next part is where the whole story breaks wide open. Let us go back to 1897. A British army surgeon named Vincent Nesfield is stationed in India during a cholera outbreak that is killing thousands. Clean water is nearly impossible to find. Boiling is impractical in the field. Soldiers are dying not from combat, but from the water they drink just to survive. Nesfield begins experimenting with chemical disinfection and discovers that elemental iodine, when dissolved in water at specific concentrations, kills every single waterborne pathogen within minutes. Cholera, typhoid, dysentery, all of them dead on contact. He documents his findings and publishes them in British medical journals. The method spreads. By World War I, iodine tablets are standard issue in military kits across Europe and America. Soldiers in trenches, explorers in the Amazon, researchers in remote territories, all of them purifying water with iodine because it worked every single time without fail. Families in rural Appalachia kept iodine tincture in their homes and added 2 drops per quart of questionable water before drinking. It was not sold as survival gear. It was simply medicine cabinet iodine, the same bottle used for cuts and wounds, repurposed because people understood basic disinfection. The knowledge passed from generation to generation at virtually no cost. Then something changed. By the 1980s, the outdoor recreation industry had fully consolidated around expensive filtration technology. Companies like Iodine, MSR, and Sawyer built entire business models on selling complicated pump filters and ceramic cartridges. Retail markups were enormous. Replacement parts created perpetual revenue. A customer who bought a $100 filter was a customer who would return every season for maintenance, cartridges, and upgrades. But a customer who learned that $2 worth of iodine did the exact same job in 60 seconds would never come back. That customer was lost forever. So the message shifted. Slowly, across 2 decades, iodine was reframed. Outdoor magazines started publishing articles questioning its safety. Gear reviews omitted it entirely. Survival courses taught only filtration and boiling, never chemical disinfection. The knowledge did not die because it stopped being effective. It was buried because effective and cheap cannot coexist in a market built on selling expensive solutions. Your grandfather knew this method. His father knew it before him. Then 50 years of marketing taught an entire generation to forget. Subscribe now if this is landing. Every single subscription fights back against an industry that profits from your ignorance. The Vault link is in the description. Stay with me, because what comes next is the science they do not want printed on any product label sold in a store. Iodine is a halogen element. When dissolved in water, it disrupts the molecular structure of microbial cell walls through a process called oxidation. It does not filter anything out. It kills everything in the water directly. According to the EPA's own documentation on emergency water disinfection, iodine is effective against Giardia cysts, bacteria, viruses, and most protozoan parasites when used at the correct concentration and contact time. The standard protocol, confirmed across decades of field use and peer-reviewed research, is simple: 5 to 10 drops of 2% iodine tincture per quart of clear water. If the water is cloudy or cold, you double that amount. Let it sit for 30 minutes. That is it. 30 minutes of contact time, and the water is microbiologically safe to drink. If you are in a true emergency and cannot wait, 10 drops in clear water will handle most threats in as little as 60 seconds, though 30 minutes remains the gold standard for full-spectrum disinfection. One small bottle of 2% iodine tincture costs under $2 at any pharmacy. That single bottle can purify over 100 quarts of water. 100 quarts for $2. Compare that to a $150 filter that clogs, breaks, requires replacement cartridges, and fails if you drop it wrong. Now, here is the part where the numbers become very uncomfortable for the companies that do not want you watching this video. The global water purification market was valued at $4.3 billion in 2024. That figure comes from verified market research published after comprehensive industry analysis. Those billions flow to companies like Sawyer, LifeStraw, Katadyn, MSR, Berkey, and dozens of other brands selling filtration as the only legitimate solution. Every single one of those products costs between $20 and $300. Not one of them purifies water faster than iodine. Not one of them costs less. Not one of them is more reliable in freezing temperatures, high altitudes, or situations where mechanical parts fail. You cannot patent iodine. You cannot build a proprietary version. You cannot create customer dependency on a bottle that costs $2 and lasts 6 months. The entire business model depends on you believing that purification is complicated, that it requires specialized gear, and that your life depends on spending money only they can provide. Iodine destroys that entire narrative. It is cheap, it is everywhere, it works faster, and it has been used successfully for over 100 years in the field. That combination cannot be tolerated by an industry built on expensive solutions. So instead of the truth, you were taught to trust the filter. You were told iodine tastes bad, which it does, but that is not a safety issue. You were told it is not safe for pregnant women or people with thyroid conditions, which is true for long-term use over weeks, but irrelevant for short-term emergency disinfection. You were given every reason to avoid the $2 solution and every reason to buy the $150 product. And it worked. The market hit $4 billion. Here is exactly what you do right now. Go to any pharmacy or supermarket and buy a bottle of 2% iodine tincture. The label will say povidone iodine or simply tincture of iodine. Make sure it is 2% concentration. Cost is under $2 for a 1-ounce bottle. Carry that bottle in your pack, your car, your emergency kit. When you need to purify water, add 5 drops per quart if the water looks clear. Add 10 drops per quart if the water is cloudy, cold, or you want faster disinfection. Let it sit for 30 minutes, then drink. If you are in an absolute emergency, 10 drops in clear water will kill most harmful organisms in 60 seconds, though 30 minutes is always better for full protection. The water will taste slightly metallic. You can add a pinch of vitamin C powder after the 30-minute contact time to neutralize the iodine taste completely. Vitamin C does not reduce effectiveness if you add it after disinfection is complete. 1 bottle, $2, 100 quarts of safe drinking water, no moving parts, no filters to clog, no batteries to die, no maintenance. This works in a campsite, a disaster, a backcountry trek, a foreign country, anywhere you question water safety. The method did not disappear because it failed. It was erased because simple and cheap threatens profit. Your great-grandfather carried iodine. His grandfather used it in the field. For generations, this knowledge passed freely through families and communities at zero cost. Then the outdoor industry convinced you it was primitive. Then they sold you a solution that cost 75 times more and worked slower. If this video opened your eyes, subscribe and share it everywhere. Every share is one less customer for them. Every person who learns this is someone who keeps $2 in their pocket and stays just as safe. The link to the vault is in the description or scan the code on your screen. Inside that vault is everything they spent billions to bury. Water methods that engineers tested in disbelief. Cleaning protocols that corporations removed from every label. Fire techniques that military units classified as restricted. Shelter systems that outperform all the gear they sell. Over 10 complete guides in one place, no fluff, straight to what works and what they do not want you to know. Now let me be completely clear about something the outdoor companies will never admit. Iodine is not perfect for every situation. If you are pregnant, have thyroid disease, or need to purify water for months continuously, you should consult a doctor and consider alternatives. Iodine does not remove heavy metals, chemicals, or sediment, only microbial threats. If you are dealing with industrial pollution, you need filtration or distillation. But for the vast majority of situations where you need safe drinking water fast, iodine is faster, cheaper, simpler, and more reliable than 90% of the expensive gear marketed to you as essential. The fact that this information is not front and center in every outdoor store, every camping manual, every emergency preparedness guide, that is not an accident. That is a choice. A profitable choice made by an industry that benefits when you do not know. Subscribe if you are still here, hit the bell. The next video is already in the works, and what we are uncovering next is even heavier. The vault link is below. Every person who finds this information is a crack in the system they built to keep you dependent. Share this forward. Teach someone who needs to know. Preserve what they tried to erase. This is Forbidden Camping, and we are just getting started.